Gabriella Nalvin has written a delightful children's book entitled Athena, The Adventures of a Fearless Dragon. This is a heartwarming story about a little dragon born with her two back feet missing. And during her journey across the country, searching for a new home, she and her brothers learn to work together to survive while strengthening their sibling bond. Athena, The Adventures of a Fearless Dragon is now available on digital platforms.
Greetings to those of you who are listening and viewing from around the world. Welcome to My Journey with Paula G, where we are juggling this journey called life while walking in the gifts and the talents that God has given us. If this is your first time on the journey, welcome. We are so grateful that you have joined us. And if you're returning, we are always grateful to have you continue embracing the journey with us. So we thank you all so very much for listening and for viewing My Journey with Paula G. We'd also like to thank those who have chosen to embrace this journey through their underwriting support. Without our underwriters, we would not have the platform upon which we could share these inspiring testimonies with each and every one of you each week. So we thank our underwriters so very much for their underwriting support. And you know, underwriting is a great way to gain exposure for your business, for your product or your service while embracing the journey. If you have a business, product, or service and you'd like more exposure on the journey, email us, jerryvoicelive@gmail.com or paula@paulagvoice.com. Make sure you put in the subject line underwriting opportunities, and we will be sure to follow up with you. I'd also like for you to stay connected with me via my website, paulagvoice.com. On my website, you can find information on my book, My Journey to Lady Wisdom After Midnight. They're encouraging blogs, they're inspirations. There's just a plethora of information on my website. So I hope you will reach out, paulagvoice.com. Connect with me across all social media, Paula G Voice. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe so you can continue the journey with me. So I thank you all so very much for tuning in. Time is precious. I almost forgot to say that this week. Time is precious. It is the one thing that you cannot get back. So for you all to think it not robbery to spend this 30 minutes with us is truly appreciated. I know I say that every week because I mean it. I truly mean it every week. You can choose to use your time any other way because there's so much out there that you could choose to listen to, you could choose to view, but you choose to spend it with us. So we really, really appreciate that as well, okay? All right, well, before I bring on my guests, I want to share a bit of Paula's perspective, and I'd like to read an excerpt from my book, My Journey to Lady Wisdom After Midnight. Our journey and who we are today is a summary of all of our life experiences. Who we are today is the manifestation of those life experiences, be they positive or negative or somewhere in the middle. If the person you are today or the person you are today is the sum of your journey. And if you want to change the person that you are today, you have to take a trip back through your past and peel back those layers. And a while back, we used to talk about peeling back the layers because who we are today is a sum of all of our life experiences. And sometimes we have experiences in our life, we have wounds that have come about as a result of our experiences. And based on how well those wounds have or have not healed, really kind of determines the trajectory of our lives because it also kind of determines the mindset. You know, I close this show, you know, every week with a phrase talking about the mindset and the conversation in between your ears. And sometimes we have to take a moment and go back and peel back the layers, looking for the sources of some unforgiveness, sources of unresolved hurts, things of that nature that we need to go back and resolve so we can move forward, move into our future whole, happy, full of joy, and allow those things to manifest that God has placed inside of us. So continue to embrace your journey in life, but recognize when and where, or if there are some things that need to be resolved before you move forward. All right. And that is your Paula's perspective for today. Well, all right. We have a guest today who is with us, and she's going to share a bit of her journey. She's an overcomer. She's an executive director. She's a best-selling author. She's an inspirational speaker. She is Judy Ambrose James, and we are so happy to hear about your journey today on My Journey with Paula G. How are you?
So thankful and humbled to be here with you today. And it's just a beautiful day, and I'm just loving life.
I know. I say that people always say, "Oh, how are you?" And I tell them, I woke up this morning. I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's what I say every morning.
Yeah.
I start my day with 3 o'clock in the morning with God. He wakes
Mm.
me. I don't know why, but that's the hour that he likes to wake me up and gives me whatever I need to go make it through this day. So I'm happy to be here.
And there's something about that 3 o'clock, and I've heard that before, that 3 o'clock hour,
Yeah.
3:30 hour where people are waking. My son-in-law used to say, that 3:30 hour. And people mention other times, but it's usually that 3 o'clock or 3:30. And he always says that's the time when if God wakes you up at 3 o'clock, 3:30, that means he has something to say to you.
Yes.
So and that's the hour he has chosen.
That's that hour. And when I wake up,
Mhm.
and now, because I'm used to it now, but when I automatically get a pen, get my note from on my phone, and get to writing,
Mhm.
because he's going to make sure that I have something that I can share, or something that I'm supposed to do.
And that's so important. And I shared that as well in the past. Some people say, I wake up in the middle of the night and I get this thought, this comes to me, that comes to me, God lays this upon my heart, and then I get up in the morning and I can't remember it. And I would tell them, like you said, paper and pencil by the bed, or in some instances, you have that recorder on your phone, just record it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then when you wake up later, you have whatever it is that he has placed in your heart, because he may not always bring it to your the forefront of your mind
Mm-hmm.
at
Mm-hmm.
10, 11 o'clock in the afternoon. So with that being said, you're here with us and you've expressed how you're so happy to be here with us, but I want you to share with the audience just the just how good God is, by the very fact that you are here having this conversation with me in the first place. So share just a bit of your journey.
Well, Paula, I would have to start when Hurricane Katrina almost wiped us out on the Gulf Coast. And I started a job as a dispatcher to help in whatever is needed. And so in that time, I went to work one day, went home, and had a massive stroke. Okay, a massive stroke is so bad that, first of all, they already tell your family that your chance of making it is very slim. Well, I made it by the grace of God. And after I completed the rehab, which was grueling, because everything I had to learn all over again. And even still, when I went home, I was still in a wheelchair. I lost the use of my right side of my body. My speech was a work in progress. And life as I knew it was not the same. And so I went from being the person that does everything for everybody, who's expected to be there, to the person who needed help from everybody. And that kind of weeded out the people who really care, because that's quite a chore to take on, is to help someone that is physical, mental, and emotionally uh, different. So, after that, Paula, I I fell. I had a subdural hematoma, two craniotomy surgeries, and the second one put me in a coma. But God, again, my family is being told that I'm more than likely won't come out. But on my daughter went to church on Mother's Day, and everybody prayed for me. She came back to the hospital. I was still in the same condition. So, of course, her emotions was taking over. And so she kissed me and she turned away to leave the room. And when she did, I woke up.
Mm.
God woke me up on Mother's Day. And from that moment, I hit the ground running. Okay. I knew if I didn't know the first two times, I was sure that God had something so phenomenal for me to do that all I wanted to do was continue to hear his voice in the morning so that he can lead me and guide me in the direction. Because God will do that if you will just listen to what he's showing you, telling you, however he communicates, because he communicates to all of us in a different way. Some of us, he sends people to show us, confirm with us what he's already told us. Have you ever had that person that comes to your house on the same day and says the same thing to you that God has shown you earlier? Have you ever had that happen, Paula?
That confirmation.
Confirmation. Or you go to church and the pastor will start talking about one thing, and all of a sudden he hits upon the same thing that God has said to you or shown with you. Well, that was what started happening in my life repeatedly. And so one day he said to me, wow, this was when COVID started. And I asked him, I think the count was 250,000 deaths. I sat down and I cried because I couldn't imagine it, for one thing, not during this time that we're living in. Everything, the medicine and doctors and everything was so advanced. How could this be happening in this time? And so I looked up and I said, God, what can I do? I mean, I'm not a frontline worker. I'm not a scientist or a doctor. I'm handicapped on one side of my body. I barely leave this room. And he said, activate your faith, Judy. And I thought about what those words meant. And I said, God, my faith is activated. You have done so much for me. I trust and believe in you. A few minutes later, I realized He wasn't telling me to activate my faith. I asked a question, what can I do? He gave me an answer, activate your faith. And that was for me to take to the masses, to go out and tell everyone to activate their faith and to bring them to realize that God had given us a promise long before any of us was in this world. He promised to never leave us, never forsake us. He said, I will supply all of your needs. He said, I am there. He said, all these things will work for our good if we trust and believe. So I went to the Bible and I found a scripture. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not to your own understanding. And most of us lean to our own understanding. If we don't understand it, if we don't recognize, then we either give up or we search a little longer until we've decided or determined what is the answer. But lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, he said, and he will direct our path. And so, look, Paula, he has sent people, believers in my life ever since I hit the ground running. And none of them did I know beforehand, but they were assigned to me. And he assigns people to all of us that will first make a difference in our lives by showing us the path that we should be on. And secondly, they are angels that are here. And right now, we're in 2022, 2 being your guardian angel number 2. And so I believe that, and I have lived by that number. And every time you see the number 2, it's been written that the angel is there to show you the way. Now, it's up to us to believe. We just have to start believing, Paula. People have stopped believing. They don't even believe what's in front of their face unless you prove it to them.
No faith.
No faith. And that is what's happening in the world. They're not taking shots. Why they don't listen? Because you have not proven to them enough. And so that is what, for me, brought me to Believe in Your Dreams Academy. No, I'm sorry, network. That is how I got to have an Activate Your Faith TV show. Now, here I am sitting in my house in a wheelchair, looking out the window at all these people in the neighborhood going from there back and forth to their jobs, to wherever they are going. And I'm no longer can drive. I'm in an electric wheelchair. And now today, I am the host of Activate Your Faith show. I am the director of Texas and Believe in Your Dreams network of 2 weeks ago, I was giving a channel. Now I have shows on my channel. Now you tell me that God had not directed my steps long before I had a massive stroke.
And you
I
have the
was
faith.
working, yes, I was working in retail as a manager, Paula. No, in my wildest dreams had I thought that I would be right here today on your show talking to you about the goodness of my journey and how I got here. And that's what I would love to get across to your viewers that look, don't think about where you are at this moment, what has happened in your life that has detoured you to where you don't want to be, because it's momentary. It's momentarily, you know, there was a moment when God had to put a out of order sign, temporarily out of order sign around my neck. And nobody could, nobody could say to me, I need this or I need that, want me to do something, because God want a one-on-one time with me. That one-on-one time helped me to realize that He is the only person, the only God that I needed to hear from. And I heard from Him and I listened. After that, my life continued to blossom and bloom because He told me, listen to me and I will not lead you wrong. And He has not. So now I am where I am now with trying to, my show is all about overcomers. It is a talk show where I bring in overcomers and they share their life stories. They share when they was not in control and they tried everything to get back to where they were, but it wasn't happening. And when they activate their faith, call on God, and listen, that's when their life catapulted to where they are now. They are there to let the viewing audience know that if He did it for me, He'll do it for you. Don't give up. Don't give in, but listen to God and He will bring you through. And
Listening to that still small voice,
oh,
and you are certainly a testimony to what happens when you listen to that still small voice. And I'm so glad you shared that, because I know in this episode you have encouraged and inspired someone who may be where you were
yes.
and is struggling, and you've poured in them to give them the encouragement to move forward. How can the audience stay connected with you?
Well, I have a website, Judy Smiles and Gifts. My social media, you can go to Judy's Ambrose James on Facebook, Activate Your Faith Show on Instagram, Judy Ambrose James on LinkedIn. And everybody knows me on social media. So you put my name in there and I'm coming up.
And it will pop up. We so appreciate you for being a part of this journey, for sharing about listening to God's still small voice, being intentional and listening to God's still small voice. And we know that you have 2 books that are available, and the audience will be able to find out more about that on your website and your social media. And we as listeners listen, viewers view, who are embracing their own challenges, hearing the journey and testimonies of faith, and having this conversation and them seeing and hearing what is on the other side of faith is indeed encouraging to each and every one of them. So thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our time always goes so quickly. Thank you all for viewing. Thank you all for listening. To our underwriters, we so appreciate you for your underwriting support so that we have this platform upon which to share such powerful stories as has been shared with our guest today, Judy, Ambrose, James. I just want to remind you to stay connected with Paula G at paulagvoice.com, my website. Also across social media, Paula G Voice. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe as we all continue this journey of life together. And remember that the greatest conversation you will ever have is the one that takes place in between your ears. What are you speaking to yourself? And as Judy has said, is God a part of that conversation? And are you listening to his still small voice? Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, embrace the journey.